Hello, the game has started. It's me to go first. Fantastic. This is a brilliant rack. I have castled and scalated. And pretty good for 7 random tiles. Not seeing a 7 or an 8, but I've got a good scoring tile in the W. But what a fantastic start. Only happens about once every 7 or 8 games that you begin with a bingo. And opponent has not bingoed in reply, so I do have a lead, and it's me to play. Now I'm looking at the E of castled for my W, which can go either side. I don't have to split up the duplicate T, but it's not great. So I could play Wog either side of castled, keeping tent, or I could play What, keeping gent. Tricky. Do I have any other options? What about a play through the A? Either ending A or ending AG. Nope, not seeing one. So, wow, I'm going with the extra point. Am I? No, I'm not. If I draw an I, this could be a jolly good 5-letter set. And I do. So, is there a bingo here? I'm not sure there is. Not seeing a 7. Petering through an R. What are the available floaters? There's an L. Not seeing anything with that. What about the T? Oh, wow, 40 points for opponent. Okay, and that is partly the positioning of What. If I'd played it below castles, then the X could have made docks for more. So, do I have a bingo through the C? No. How irksome. What about the A? No. Am I sure there isn't a 7 here? And it may not be an ing word. No, not seeing anything. Now, I certainly can sort this rack out with peg for 29, which is pretty decent. It doesn't give anything away. My P could also make pod. For a similar score, but I think this is slightly more. Yeah, and this rack lead goes well with the C. I'm going with this. Now, well, it's carnate, not carnite. C goes well with H and K, but I'm not seeing a bingo here. I think H and K together reduce the likelihood. So, what can I do? Surely I will have options with good scoring tiles. Hod is good. So I could play Hank. What's the best I can do with this C? Well, I have Chink. That's been blocked. Very few floaters on the board. But I certainly don't want to miss a bingo if I have one. So there is the T of castled. Not seeing anything with that. So this is quite a nice spot. Is Hank the play? I don't think I can get the K tripled. Rack leave isn't fantastic. But 36 points is decent. Wow, look at this Y spot next to the F of flan. Nothing I can do about that this turn. I do have a lead. Just pausing in case I have a 5-letter play ending in K. But it hasn't come to mind. I am going with this. Wow, so I keep a vowel-heavy rack and I draw vowels and no scoring tiles. So a grim rack. Hod takes an S in front. I have Knew It across the top of Hank, which sorts the rack out. Wex takes a D and an S. Flan has really stopped the development of the bottom left of the board. Now, I lead by 80, so that's just a solitary bingo, and I'm not going to be getting 30 points with this rack. So, do I have an alternative to Knew It? Well, I have Knew. Oh, wow, and opponent has a 106-point bingo. Painful. Well, thank goodness I didn't find a 5-letter play ending in K. Oh, wow. Okay, so this isn't terrible. I do have Oh No for 37. Can I do any better? All of my vowels go next to the H. Only O goes next to the Z. And N and T go next to A. So, do I have any ENO words? No. INO? No. ETO? ITO? No, I think this is it. I am going with this. Wow, what a fantastic pick. I draw the first blank. And, well, I have addition in column 15, should that remain available. But surely I am bingoing. Do I have anything with S in second place? It's Inosight with this rack. That doesn't play. Very few bingo lanes on this board. Opponents played. Fantastic. So my addition spot remains available. I'm going to... Well, I was going to look for a higher scoring play, but actually this scores the most in this spot. And I'm not putting vowels next to premium squares, so there's no need to look further. Well, row K, Inosight doesn't play. Yeah, no need to look further. Pretty good for 7 random tiles, very close to a bingo. I'm not seeing one. However, pretty decent rack. I should have lots of options, and I have a lead of 20 points. Now, opponents played FE, and look at this, I have a Y for going next to the F. So I can play BD here for 41 points. That's pretty handy. Gets me back up to having a 60-point lead. Is there anything better I can do? I don't think so. And I draw the second blank, and the rest of the rack not too shabby. So there's a 7-letter lane ending in S in row N. And if I can begin my play with a C, that will eliminate any possibility of a row O reply. So I think I have corvids in row N. And do I have an alternative bingo? I must have something through these floaters of BD. But what? Well, not seeing anything yet, but there definitely will be bingos. But I'm certainly hoping to play in row N. Still one S to come, so Corvids is going to take out that 7-letter lane. And it remains available. Fantastic. Corvids for 79. And pretty good. Not a million miles away from a bingo. It's balanced. I've got the M for score. The Q's gone, so I don't have that concern to take into account playing the U or keeping it. Now just 26 tiles in the bag, and I have a 100-odd point lead. So just 20 points for opponent, that's good. Now, is it possible I have a bingo here? Not seeing a 7. Adumbrate is a 9-letter play through B and E. Not seeing anything with the E or the A. Bottom of the board is dead. I'm minded to leave it that way. So if I place my M next to this E of BD, I'm not going to play off the U, which I'd quite like to do. Still one U to come, 2 Vs and a W. So the rack could rapidly become tricky. However, well, it's not really a however. I'm now looking at an alternative part of the board. I can play Juma here for 33 points. Very good rack leave. My initial thoughts were to shut down bingo lanes with BD, but I have such a good lead. Getting 33 points for Juma with this rack leave, I think means that this board is better for me than opponent in terms of bingo prospects, and a bingo isn't going to damage me. I think I'm far enough ahead that I ought to be able to hang on. Opponent really needs back-to-back bingos, and they're running out of tiles and board space. So I have airting and rating. No effort either. What do I have with an E? Gosh, that looks like there should be a bingo. That's retain with IG. That stays available. Now, opponent has not created any new lanes. Just checking that I haven't overlooked a lane, and I'm not seeing any. So nowhere for my 7s. There's the B. Not seeing anything with that. What about the A? Anti-tray guy is a 9. Lariating is a 9. No, nothing with the A, and just coming back to the E. This would be awful to miss an 8-letter retain bingo. But I'm not seeing it. If there is one there, I'm not seeing it. 17 tiles in the bag, including some grim stuff at the back end. I need to tear myself away from this E. So, what can I do? I could play, well, yeah, I can play Git. Only 15 points. Let me count the remaining vowels. 9 out of 24, slightly vowel dry. What else could I do? Still one S to come for Souks, which is a 7-letter lane. Nothing goes in front or after Phi. Nothing ends oh-ho. Lazzo is good. "10 minutes on my clock." What am I missing? What would Hasty do? Git feels lame. R-biting is not good. Just so few spots on the board. What about closing down the floaters in BD? "14 points. What about playing a ring for 16? Taking out all of the floaters. How useful is this R? Not very much. Only an E can go to the right of it in terms of vertical plays, and a horizontal play. The most opponent could hope for is something like Raj for 30 rather. Let me play Rangi instead. 20 points, turning over 5 tiles when there are only 17 left. I think this is a decent play. I'm going with this. Well, and I dodged the Drek. And if opponent is drawn into playing to the right of the R, well, they're just using up space on the board. And I lead by 140, so I think this game is won. I still have Git in column 14, which sorts the rack out. And I want to sort the rack out in case opponent chooses to open the board. I'd like to be with a decent chance of taking advantage of any openings. Now, I do have an E for going next to the R, so do I have a vertical play? Great, just 11 points. Opponent doesn't open the board. O-bar only takes an S, so the best I've got in row A is relit. 15. The Raj possibility remains available, so does Ravi. 33 points. Let me count the remaining vowels. 6 out of 16. Well, opponents opened a new non-bingo lane in row A. Git for 15. Yeah, I quite like this rack leave. This doesn't feel great, but I am going with it. Oh, wow. VVW. Wow. And nothing great in row A. Left or right. Wow, what a pick. V, V, and W. Fortunately, I think I have a big enough lead to survive. And no A for Vav. Wow, that was brutal. Now, do I really have nothing top left? Nope. I do have View and Wive on my rack, just nowhere to play them. I have an L for Lazo. S for Souk still available. So what am I going to do? Vive is good. But there's pretty much nowhere for anything. I think Rivel may be good. Rivet certainly is. But my first thought was to try and play off 2 out of VVW, but I think I may struggle to do that. Ren is good, but I can't play a V, and I'd certainly like to play off one of those. 12 minutes on opponent's clock, 7 on mine. Yeah, just not seeing anywhere to play the Vs. Possibly an IFY play. But that would be providing floaters access to triple word squares, which I don't want to do. Div is good. But I'm not seeing anything at all which uses that. WE is good. Yeah, Raj for opponent. So 4 tiles left. Why don't I do this? Well, because it's burning all of my vowels. Wow, I've got myself into a bit of a pickle at the end here. But I lead by over 100, so this is my game. So what I can do is this. Virant for 18, decent score and retaining a vowel, so I am going with this. And it left 1 in the bag, and I've drawn an S, fantastic, and a Y, which is a quasi-vowel, and an E, so following my dreadful pick, I've now drawn extremely well. So what am I going to do with my extremely good draw? I no longer have an eye for wives and views. Well, I've got WYES for over 30. That's pretty decent. That'll take me over the 500 mark. Great, just 3 points by opponent. So, where's best to play? Opponent doesn't have the S, so this spot is mine. I don't have to play there immediately. So, what else can I do? If I want to play Ys, I'd need to play LEV. Now, is low bar good? Something tells me it isn't. Let me just check it. No, that's a shame, otherwise I could have played live. Lazzo is good, but I can't play Elven because Iran isn't good. 5 minutes on my clock. Opponent certainly is not bingoing. I must make sure that I don't give him a lane. So I'm looking, well, what's the longest? I could play Wiles. So is there somewhere to play off just V and E? Wow, so hard. Dive, and then next turn I have Wiles, and I don't think that can be blocked. And even if opponent bingos, I will win because I'm sufficiently far ahead. Now, opponent has resigned. Okay. So, and the final score, 351 to me, 487 to opponent, a winning margin of 136 points. So a huge, huge win. Let's see what I missed. Wow, what a game. Quite close, and then it wasn't close. So it was me to go fast, and I got off to the best possible start with Castled, and opponent with 3 of the high-scoring tiles and only 1 vowel plays Souk. And interesting, I play Watts. I was thinking about Wog, Want also available, but the N helps the G. But if I play... Yep, if I play Want, the N isn't available, so I think What is fine. Opponent plays Ox. Phew, no missed bingo here. I play Peg for 29. And Peeing available for slightly more, but a much worse rack leave, so I like my play. Opponent with no vowels, so Grim Stuff plays Flan. Hanky, wow, F10. Putting an E in the middle of column 15, what do? I play Hank for 36, keeping EIT. I could have played Hake, keeping ENT, and I think that would have been a better play. Now, opponents' fortunes have been transformed because they have Haziest for 106, which is pretty fantastic. So I come back with Oh No, and that's better than 1, despite its position in this list, because the E is better than an O. Wow. Opponent with a lot of vowels plays Aura, and I have this Dream Rack, and I have Edition for... Okay, K8. Edition plays underneath Peg, making Lope, Wext, and Gee for 12 more points. Gosh. And it would have obstructed column 15. Now, opponent's rack. I think they may have Freebie, but it doesn't play. And they play FE. I have BD for 41, and my lead only 60 despite a bingo and a high-scoring play, and that's because Haziest scored so much. Opponent plays Q, creating a new lane. But I have this fantastic rack and can get Corvids down for a decent score without providing anything for opponent. So this is the point at which I establish a really big lead on a pretty tight board. And it stays this way. Opponent plays Ban. Juma, that was my play. Opponent with P, and I'm still 120 ahead. Phew, no missed bingo here. This is where I spent ages looking at this E, thinking I may have missed something very high probability, but I didn't. So I play Rangi for 20, keeping IT. Yeah, and B2 ring bit is just providing a floater and access to the top left, so I like my play. Opponent plays Law. Now, I play Git here. Interesting, only a couple of higher scoring plays, and they don't score very much more. Lien, C12. Lazzo. Yeah, keeping duplicate T and the G, so I like my play. Opponent plays Raj, and this is the horror show pickup. Fortunately, I was so far ahead, it didn't affect the outcome of the game. So I play Virant for 18, and the only higher score on this list, or play on this list rather, is Twill for 27, but keeping double V, so I prefer my play. Opponent plays It, and now Wiles, that's what I spotted, but I decided to play Dive first so that I could play it and go out next turn, and this is unblockable. So, well, opponent resigns at this point, and that was the end of the game. So, oh yeah, so opponent resigns, stopping me from playing Wiles for 35 points, which would have given me over 500 points. So, anyway, that's the way it goes. Sometimes people do resign. But fortunately, that doesn't happen at face-to-face tournaments where there are certain standards of conduct which people adhere to, which I think is for the benefit of everyone. But I understand why on a game over the internet people may choose to resign. So I'm not particularly criticising my opponent. Anyway, what a fantastic game! Absolutely superb start with Castled, and then a very timely bingo of Corvids, which really sealed the deal in terms of the game, and I just continued then with a 100-point lead all the way to the end. So many thanks to opponent for a good battle. I hope you enjoyed watching that game. Like, comment and subscribe, and I will see you next time.